having a life scholarship and being able to afford to go to college made me feel inspired to go.
When I got a life scholarship, it was such a relief.
I knew that I wanted to have an impact. Having a life scholarship through the SC Education Lottery was huge. It gave me the opportunity to make that impact right here at home.
The South Carolina Education Lottery. A better you, a better us, a better South Carolina. Visit sceducationlottery.com/betteryou.
At Arizona State University, we're bringing world-class education from our globally acclaimed faculty to you. Ranked #1 in innovation for 10 consecutive years and #2 among public universities for employability. ASU isn't just ahead of the curve, it's creating new paths to success. Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online, that's a degree better. Explore more than 300 undergraduate, graduate, and certificate programs at asuonline.asu.edu.
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
I'm Lauren.
I am Ken.
And this is Paradise After Dark.
Dark.
Missing and Unsolved.
This is a Tomahawk Media production covering true crime,
missing people,
unsolved crimes,
and cold cases.
Please check out our website, paradiseafterdark.com.
On the website, you'll find links to all of our episodes, even the archived ones, our mailing list, merch store, and links to our social media.
We also have a cute little virtual tip jar there, so if you leave us a tip, we'll give you a shout out on the show. So, Lauren.
In this episode, we are discussing missing child Danielle Bell. Danielle Bell was a 14-year-old spirited cheerleader at Tate High School, known for her dancing and artistic flair. Everyone around her, friends and family alike, recognized her popularity, but whispers circulated about some of her inner circle who might not have had her best interest at heart.
The day of her disappearance marked a darker turn of events. Witnesses reported seeing Danielle at a park with a man named Alfredo Sanchez, who was 24 on September 28th of 2001. After that, Danielle was last seen at a party hosted by a man in his mid-20s named Robert Bassett Jr. at his home on Cedar Tree Lane in Cantonment, Florida. The witnesses left the party that night, leaving Danielle behind with Bassett. After that, she seemed to evaporate in the memory.
Danielle Bell's story is one that's lingered in the shadows for far too long. It's hard to believe it's been almost 25 years since she's vanished. Her sister Bonnie is on a mission to change that narrative.
You see, Bonnie isn't just sitting on the sidelines hoping for a miracle. No. She's out there rallying for new eyes on the case, determined to bring justice to Danielle's memory. Danielle was the outgoing one, she said, reminiscing about her sister with a spark of pride. In Bonnie's eyes, you can see the warmth. They shared a special bond, and the memories of sun-soaked days laughing on Pensacola Beach are precious.
Last time I saw her, we drove to Pensacola and took photos together, Bonnie told me when we spoke. It was a great day. Like Ken said in the intro, witnesses reported seeing Danielle at a park with a man named Alfredo Sanchez, who was 24. And after that, Danielle was seen at a party hosted by Robert Bassett Jr. Investigators learned that Bassett began stalking one of these witnesses after Danielle's disappearance, raising even more suspicion about his involvement. And while Bassett was arrested following Danielle's disappearance, the lack of charges in her case raised many questions.
Then there's Alfredo Sanchez, who had a past relationship with Danielle. He was later convicted of lewd and lascivious behavior and molestation in connection with his sexual activity with Danielle before she disappeared. In a twist, he was charged in 2007 for lying to investigators about his whereabouts when Danielle disappeared. His initial alibi crumbled when his cousin recanted her story.
An affidavit filed in the case includes accounts from other girls who were 15 or younger who had sexual encounters with Alfredo Sanchez.
About 2 weeks before Danielle disappeared, she shared some news with her friends. She was crying. She was just telling me that she thinks she's pregnant with Alfredo's baby, and she doesn't know what she's going to do, her best friend told News Nation in February of this year.
Danielle also told her mother, My mom said that my sister told her that she was pregnant with Alfredo Sanchez's child and that Alfredo had told her if she said anything to anyone, he would murder her, Bonnie Bell said.
You see, a pregnancy could expose their relationship and land him in prison.
All I know for sure is that she was last seen at Robert Bassett's house, Bonnie Bell told me, and that prior to her disappearance, she had been involved in a sexual relationship with a 24-year-old man, which is really child sexual assault.
Yes, of course. And authorities initially labeled Danielle's disappearance as a runaway situation. But let's be clear. There are plenty of signs pointing to foul play here. Sure, there are speculations about her possibly traveling to nearby hotspots like Panama City or New Orleans, but the reality is she could very well still be somewhere in Pensacola. It's frustrating that Danielle's case remains unsolved, and the ongoing investigation certainly warrants more scrutiny. With her story still shrouded in mystery and tension surrounding the individuals involved, Danielle deserves every bit of attention and effort until the truth is revealed. She's not just a name lost in time. She's a person with a story that needs to be told.
So I met Bonnie virtually on TikTok through the Florida Themis Project's TikTok page, and I was tagged in one of her videos. So we started chatting, and we talked about featuring Danielle for the month of June with the Florida Themis Project, and that's what we're doing. But then I got to meet her in person at AdvocacyCon in March of this year. So I have invited Bonnie to speak with me and tell me Danielle's story, as I believe that Bonnie knows this story best.
Drivers who switch and save with Progressive could save hundreds. With that kind of money, you could go big time on a fancy water bottle with ultra titanium alloy metal. You're not sure why you need all that. I mean, it just holds water. But you're getting it anyway. Because if you're hiking near an active volcano and you accidentally drop the bottle into molten lava, your water will still be icy cold. Switch to Progressive and you could save big time. For water bottles. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, not available in all states. Potential savings will vary.
All right, so this is Lauren here, and I'm here with Bonnie Bell. This is Danielle Bell's sister, who I met very, what would you call it? Like, serendipitously?
Serendipitously. Yeah, we kind of did.
Yeah, we did.
Oh.
And the Florida Themis Project is going to be featuring Danielle as our case for the month of June. And Bonnie has been kind enough to talk to me and talk to me about Danielle, tell me Danielle's story. And I don't think anybody knows this story or this case more intimately than Bonnie does. So let's chat, Bonnie. Tell me about Danielle.
Yeah, so my sister Danielle was born July 28th, 1987. She was the youngest of three. There was 6 years between Danielle and I. Growing up in the home that we did was not easy. It was a pretty rough upbringing. Our mom was an active addict. There was a lot of abuse, verbal and physical, in our house. Neglect on my mother's part. So growing up, Danielle and I always shared a room. And even though we were 6 years apart, we were fairly close. Like most sisters, we had our moments where we did not get along. One of those, it was mainly because I thought I knew everything back then, and I would try to make her listen to me. I remember one time I put like tape down the middle of the bedroom so she would stay on her side and I could stay on my side. Her side was like messy. She would, push everything under her bed, and it drove me crazy. So I'd be like, keep your stuff on your side of the room. I'm going to keep my stuff over here, but Danielle and I spent a lot of time together. Especially when I was in high school. I started driving at 16. She was 10. She would go with me to the mall with my friends. We spent a lot of time hanging out at the beach. One of my favorite things that we used to do is go to a friend of mine's house that lived on a canal, and we would take like a little John boat and one of those paddle boats, the ones you pedal out And she loved that. She loved the water. She was a cheerleader. She had been a cheerleader for a little league football team, starting at the age of 4 or 5. And she did that her entire life, very short life. So I wouldn't say Danielle and I had a really close relationship. And despite the years of difference between our ages and me leaving the house at 18 and she was only 12, I maintained that by seeing her at least once a week. My best friends, I have some of the greatest friends in the world. One of them would go pick Danielle up and take her to the beach and the mall. Like we were doing that when we were college age and Danielle was in high school, middle school, high school. So she was like well integrated into my life. But Danielle and I were two very different people on a lot of levels. I didn't know much about her boyfriends or who she was talking to or had a crush on or any of that. Um, One, I think because she was not wanting to let me know that she was dating, and I put dating in quotations. It's actually sexually abused by a 24-year-old man at the time. Based on what her friends have said, she believed that that was an actual relationship. I'm going to stop there for a second before I don't want to go off on like a tangent too much before and take us too far. But Danielle was a happy person. She was outgoing. She and one of the ways I've always described her, the differences between Danielle and I is that if you've seen the show Daria that was on MTV in the 90s,
Yeah.
there's two sisters, Daria and Quinn. And Danielle used to say, Bonnie, you're Daria, and I'm Quinn. And Daria was the dark, mysterious one. Quinn was the outgoing cheerleader. It's very much a exact description of what that was like, you know? So, yeah, that's about Danielle.
So I have a sister who's 7 years older, and we have a very close relationship. It's almost like I sort of look at my big sister as like a second mom in a way. Do you wonder if maybe you kind of filled that role, especially if your mother was not, always there?
I think in a lot of ways, yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. A lot of ways, yes. I think that in a lot of ways, I was even more responsible than my own mother. I would love to tell you that I cooked meals for my sister, but I did not. She cooked meals for me. I was the
Yeah.
cleaner, she was the cooker. So
You guys took care of each other. That's sweet.
right, right. And I think that it was a lot of yeah, I think she did in a lot of ways. I mean, it wasn't uncommon for me to say you shouldn't be doing that or don't do that.
Yeah.
And so, and of course she would it would cause an argument. I mean, that was the last time I saw my sister. We got into an argument about her hanging out with Alfredo Sanchez. So,
Can you tell me about the last time you saw Danielle or talked to her?
so I think the date was September 16th or 17th, 2001. It was on a Sunday. Um, about 2 weeks before she was reported missing. We had gone to Pensacola Beach to have our pictures taken. And we dropped our middle sibling off at our dad's house. I was driving, I dropped him off. And from there, I was taking Danielle back to her place where she was living with her mom. And on that car ride, she, this was after we'd taken our pictures. We're on the way back. She asked me, will you stop at a payphone so I can call my friends to come get me? And I said, no, I'm going to take you back where I got you. I'm taking you home. Well, when I get there, we go inside. I started making a plate of food. And sometime after I'm sitting down eating, I hear Danielle ask our mom if Alfredo Sanchez can come over or if Alfredo can come over. And it's like 8:30 at night, probably maybe close to 9 at this point. And next thing I know, I see my sister come in with three men. One of them being Alfredo Sanchez, who appeared.
14 at this time, right?
She's 14, right? I'm 20. I'm looking at Alfredo Sanchez and I'm like, he's older than I am, right? There's two other guys with him. They're about my age. I'm 20 at the time. Come to find out it was Alfredo Sanchez, his little brother, Alex Sanchez, who I believe was about 18 at the time, and then his cousin, Roel Anurez, who, like I said, somewhere between 20 and 24. So much older than Danielle, right? Like I've never met these guys. So my sister asked my mom, can we go take a ride? Can we take a ride? And that's important later. So my mom says, yeah. And I'm like watching this and I'm like, what is she doing hanging out with this dude? He's like 24. I'm saying this right in front of Alfredo Sanchez. I'm like, he's older than I am. And my mom said, I know him. Danielle babysits for him. He's a good guy. And Danielle told me basically shut up, mind my business. And I told her, I was like, you don't need to be hanging out with him. You do not need to be hanging out with any of them. So we got into an argument. I threw my plate in the sink and walked out and left. And that was the last time I ever saw my sister.
So did you know Alfredo prior to this, or
No.
this was the first time you ever met him?
Right.
And your mom said she babysat for him. Did he have kids?
He had a small child at that time.
Oh,
That was 2 or 3.
okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'd probably be taken aback by that too.
I can tell you a little bit about how that was weird for me on another level. I've never even talked about it on a podcast before. When I was 15, I came out as gay, and I happened to be dating an older woman at that time that was 21. My parents, my stepdad put me in basically on lockdown for 6 months. There was none of that happening. So to one, not only have had that, they had that experience with me as a teenager, to not have the same reaction that for my mom, because my stepdad did not know that this was happening, for my mom to allow that to continue knowingly, but yet have a totally different reaction 5 or 6 years prior, it just really rubs me. At that time, I'm like, I get it. At 15, I was 20 at the time. At 15, that should not have been happening. I'm glad you put a stop to that. For whatever reasons you may have put a stop to that. Why aren't we doing the same thing now? And I made a comment to my mom about that. And I was like, what is happening? Like, it doesn't make any sense. So I was extra mad. I was mad on a lot of levels about it.
Did your mom when you called your mom out, did she have any reason, or did your mom know that Danielle was in a romantic relationship, or did she think that she was just hanging out with this guy?
Well, from what my mom told me that night, that Sunday night, she just babysits for Alfredo. There is nothing sexual going on between them.
Okay. But that was not the case.
That was not the case. And also my mom knew differently than what she said that night.
Okay. All right.
Come to find out over the years, that wasn't correct. That was a lie.
So what happened after that? She left with them. You left.
This is an argument, right? So I'm 20 years old. I go back to my house, go do my 3 jobs, and continue on with school for the next 2 weeks. I didn't hear from my sister. If I did, it might have been brief. I don't recall hearing from her those 2 weeks. Monday, October 1st, for some reason, I just happened to call early in the morning to see how everyone was doing, what was going on, and had been enough time over this stupid fight in my mind. I was going to see what was up. And if, my sister had plans after school, like what was going on. So I call and my mom answers the phone hysterical. I cannot make out what she's saying. My grandma gets on the phone and she says, you need to get over here right now. Your sister's been missing since Friday, September 28th. And I'm like, what do you mean my sister's been missing since September 28th? And no one decided to call me? No one bothered to tell me? So I go and I remember this. I remember every detail of this day so vividly. I went and dropped off like a English comp paper, told my professor I had to go, and headed out north to their house. And that's when I find out that she had been seen since Friday. My stepdad didn't find out till Sunday. And all we were doing was ground searches. I spent that day with my uncle's best friend searching riverbanks, half the day with my stepdad knocking on random doors in the neighborhoods, just trying to figure out what we could find.
So the last time she was seen was September 28th. I just want to clarify because I found conflicting information
Right.
with September 30th.
Yeah.
When the last time she was seen was the 28th, was it the 30th that she was reported missing?
That's the day my mother reported her missing, was Sunday, September 30th.
But you didn't find out until Monday.
Correct. And I had to call. Also, she called my stepdad first and said, hey, Danielle's missing. What should I do? And he was like, call the cops. Also, my grandmother later told me, and they lived with my grandmother, that she had to encourage my mom to call the cops also.
What do you think was her hesitation in calling the cops?
I think she was trafficking my sister to Alfredo Sanchez in exchange for her drug fix.
Okay.
That's exactly what I think happened.
Do you want that in the podcast?
I do.
Okay. Okay. I hadn't come across that information yet. That's why I was like,
Okay.
Okay. So, wow. That's pretty dark.
Yeah, it is pretty dark. And there's a couple of reasons why I, think that to be true. My mom said that Danielle, so Monday, the evening Monday, October 1st, after we were all like immediate family and friends, there was probably about 25 to 30 of us in that initial group searching, found out at the end of that day, we were at my uncle's house, and that's when I found out that that Danielle had told my mom that thought she was pregnant about 2 weeks prior to her disappearance, and that it was Alfredo Sanchez's, and that Alfredo had told her he would murder her if she told anybody. I also found out that my mom and my uncle confronted Alfredo Sanchez about it about 2 to 3 weeks prior to Danielle's disappearance. So 2 to 3 weeks. It was a little less than 2 weeks between when I saw Danielle and Alfredo Sanchez together and my mom, and then she comes up missing. So 2 to 3 weeks prior to her going missing, she later said she knew at that point in time that her and Alfredo had a thing going on.
So the last time you saw Danielle and you guys went to Pensacola and spent the day together, you did photos, she thought or knew she was pregnant with Alfredo's child, and so did your mother at this point.
According to my mom's time frame, correct.
Hello, it is Ryan, and I was on a flight the other day playing one of my favorite social spin slot games on ChumbaCasino.com. I looked over at the person sitting next to me, and you know what they were doing? They were also playing Chumba Casino. Everybody's loving having fun with it. Chumba Casino is home to hundreds of casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com to claim your free welcome bonus. That's ChumbaCasino.com and live the Chumba life.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group.
void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Drivers who switch and save with Progressive could save hundreds. With that kind of money, you could go big time on a fancy water bottle with ultra titanium alloy metal. You're not sure why you need all that. I mean, it just holds water. But you're getting it anyway. Because if you're hiking near an active volcano and you accidentally drop the bottle into molten lava, your water will still be icy cold. Switch to Progressive and you could save big time. For water bottles. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, not available in all states. Potential savings will vary.
So, from my notes here, the last place she was seen was at a house party, or was it a park? Can you
Okay,
clarify that for me?
absolutely. So she around 7:30 that Friday, September 28th. My mom was reportedly at my brother's football game. My sister was supposed to be staying at home because she was on restriction. That's the first version of the story. What we can confirm is that around 7:30, 8 o'clock, Friday, September 28th, 2001, my sister left home on North Robert Circle with neighborhood kids. All of these kids have been cleared. Headed into Heritage Park, which is about, it's a few miles north of where she lived. And this park was a party in the park, mostly high school kids. And from that park, she left in a white Lincoln Town car. And Alex Sanchez, Alfredo Sanchez's little brother, and Robert Bassett are confirmed to have been in that car with Danielle. They went from there to 588 Cedar Tree Lane in Cantonment, Florida, where there was after I have talked to several people over the past few months. One of them was at that party. She said it was more of a gathering than a party. Around 1:30 that night, Alex Sanchez and Danielle dropped this young girl off at her home. Danielle was supposed to stay the night with her, but she's decided to go back to Robert Bassett's house with Alex Sanchez. And that is the last time anyone has seen her.
So, she was at the park, and Alex Sanchez and Bassett picked her up in a Lincoln Town car, and that's been confirmed.
That has been confirmed by eyewitness reports. Mm-hmm.
And then they went to Bassett's house. Then they left and dropped her friend off, and then she left again with Alex Sanchez, who is Alfredo's cousin.
Little brother.
Little brother. Okay. Little brother. See, I'm trying to make sure I have all these
I know. There's so many
facts straight. So, what do you think happened?
So, it was recently that I talked to this she was 15 at the time of Danielle's disappearance. But from what she has told me, and these are the questions I've asked her, and I will tell you I 100% believe this girl. She's grown and has kids now. There was speculation that Danielle was heavily intoxicated at 588 Cedar Tree Lane at Robert Bassett's house. And from what this girl has told me, she said, Danielle had smoked some pot, had been drinking a little bit, but she wasn't out of her mind. Like she was, still with it, able to have a conversation. She said Danielle's demeanor was happy. There was nothing concerning.
Mm-hmm.
So I think when she got back to Robert Bassett's house, she was gang raped again because they had done it weeks prior. And she either died during that or they got rid of her after that.
When you say got rid of her, you think they killed her?
Yes, I 100% believe that Danielle is no longer alive.
Now, what do the police think? What did the police say?
So the police won't confirm whether they believe that she's alive, dead, they won't say. They have said they believe foul play is suspected. And they have said that the main suspects are Robert Bassett, Alex Sanchez, and Alfredo Sanchez. That's what they'll confirm.
That's it?
That's it. That's all they'll confirm.
And do you think that they're still actively working on this case?
No. I absolutely do not think that they're still actively working on this case. I've had many questions for them, and they can't answer that. They can't
It's
tell
been
me.
open and active, yeah.
Well, for example, what does an active investigation mean? Like, what are you doing? They can't define that. They've made promises that they were going to bring in a review panel and, look over her case again. They didn't do that. They had, where was recently I had to track down a set of remains because they weren't tested. And of course, according to the sheriff's department, they would never have untested remains lying around in their medical examiner's office. Well, I found out that you actually have two sets. They did run dental records against Danielle's from these, and they were able to determine that they were not Danielle's. So, I'm glad that that's been resolved. But moving forward, I've had questions like, was Robert Bassett ever given a lie detector test? If we back up to why do I think that my mom trafficked my sister to Alfredo Sanchez for his drug fix? There had been, in Danielle's case, there was a lot of canvassing that was done by class kids when the executive director, Brad Dennis, was over that. He's moved on to a human trafficking organization now. But I do want to highlight Brad Dennis. Brad Dennis did an incredible job of gathering information on my sister's case. And in those documents of his documentation, there were several people that had said they thought that, or they had heard that my mom was involved in prostitution and had forced Danielle into that lifestyle. From my personal experience with my mom, I had never had any reason to suspect that to be true until 2019. My mom was a heavy meth addict, had been a heavy meth addict. So she was in and out of my life quite a bit after Danielle went missing. I would cut her off. And then there were times when she would be sober, I would allow her to, be involved and like attend, holidays, graduations, whatever was going on in my life. In 2019, her addiction had gotten so bad, I had cut her off again. Well, I started getting phone calls in July of 2019, and so did my uncle, of her doing the oddest things and being absolutely out of control. One of those things was that a U-Haul place called my uncle and said, hey, you're listed as a reference for Susan Bell. She rented a truck from us and we haven't gotten it back. And he calls me and he tells me, and we're like, we haven't talked to her. We don't know where this truck is. Right. Well, then we get another phone call. I get a phone call that she was prostituting, actually in a location close to my house. My uncle got another call that she had been prostituting on the other side of town. So I drive to this location, which is the Queen Mary Inn on Davis Highway in Pensacola. And lo and behold, I sit there and I see the U-Haul truck with the tag number. That is the one that she has not returned. And I see her walking up to the hotel. Now, this is a hotel you rent by the hour. It's seedy. It's shady. That's where high schoolers go to have parties. It's gross. You're probably going to it's just bed bugs. It's gross. Well, I take this information to a trusted authority and I say, hey, this is what I heard about my mom. I remember that there were rumors in your case files, rumors, if you want to call them, people saying that she was involved in prostitution. I think she's working out of this hotel. So he takes her picture up there and says, do you recognize this woman? And the hotel clerk says, yes, we do. We kicked her out yesterday because the woman across the hall and her child saw many men coming in and out of there. So we had to kick her out. So that was that to me was the verification I needed to prove that she was involved in that lifestyle. Since then, now, mind you, the very first thing I did was take this information to the Escambia County Sheriff's Office and ask them, how much was my mom questioned in the beginning? Can you bring her back in for a lie detector test? Like, can you find out what if there was any correlation between, her prostitution and Danielle's disappearance? They never followed up on it. Not once. Of course, they said, well, we tried to find her. And I'm like, I gave you her location, plus additional locations that she frequents. I found her. Why can't you find her? Anyways, long story short, they never follow up on that. So through opening myself up on social, I have had people from the local community reach out to me and tell me that they were in the vicinity when Alfredo Sanchez made a transaction. And I say a transaction, he gave her drugs without exchange for money. Not that they witnessed any kind of sexual acts, but saw an exchange of drugs between the two of them. Alfredo giving them to my mom.
So do you think that Danielle wanted to be with Alfredo Sanchez, or was she being pushed by your mom to be with Alfredo Sanchez? Or maybe both?
Maybe both. Maybe both. I think it, do I think that my mom said, Danielle, you're going to have sex with Alfredo Sanchez in exchange for my drug fix? No. But I think that at a bare minimum, my mom knew that my sister was engaging in sexual activity, being sexually abused by a 24-year-old man, and he was giving her free drugs. Either so she'd keep her mouth shut, not care enough. I mean, she didn't really care in the first place, but, it was feeding for her. But I do think that at a bare minimum, my mom exchanged drugs for my sister's body. That's what I think.
That's really sad to think.
Yeah.
There's no leads or anything about where Danielle might be.
So I gotcha. So, I don't know if I mentioned it. Robert Bassett's house was the last place she was seen. Now, it's important to note that Robert Bassett was Alfredo Sanchez's best friend.
Yeah.
Okay. So Danielle's been missing, right? Last place she's seen is Robert Bassett's house. Over the years, Robert Bassett has basically told us she's been put into a hog pen. That was another piece of information. So Robert Bassett is currently serving 4 years in prison for 6 different counts of violence. Some against his ex-wife, a couple of other different women. Domestic violence. He beat a woman with a chair over $40. His rap sheet's 7 pages long, from juvie all the way. He's burglary, stalking, DV, name it, he's got it. Interfering with child custody, threats, all of these things. And back in 2012, 2013, I get a text message from one of Danielle's friends of a screenshot from Robert Bassett in this Facebook group where he's arguing with these women, as a all Black group. And this girl asked him, where's that missing white girl that you were last seen with you? And he says, in the hog pen where you belong.
Hello, it is Ryan, and I was on a flight the other day playing one of my favorite social spin slot games on ChumbaCasino.com. I looked over at the person sitting next to me, and you know what they were doing? They were also playing Chumba Casino. Everybody's loving having fun with it. Chumba Casino is home to hundreds of casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com to claim your free welcome bonus. That's ChumbaCasino.com and live the Chumba life.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VG VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Drivers who switch and save with Progressive could save hundreds. With that kind of money, you could go big time on a fancy water bottle with ultra titanium alloy metal. You're not sure why you need all that. I mean, it just holds water. But you're getting it anyway. Because if you're hiking near an active volcano and you accidentally drop the bottle into molten lava, your water will still be icy cold. Switch to Progressive and you could save big time. For water bottles. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, not available in all states. Potential savings will vary.
This isn't the first time that he's like said a hog pen. From what I have been told from people that knew him and that were around at that time, that was the reference that he made. So I'm trying to figure out where this hog pen is.
I was going to say, how many hog pens? I mean,
so recently it was brought to my attention that there's actually something called Foster's Hogs in a very close proximity to Robert Bassett's house that is now shut down. The couple that owned it is, only one of them is alive. They were very elderly, even in the early 2000s. Mr. Foster has passed. So there's land in Miss Foster's name that I want someone to search, but I can't seem to get anybody to do that.
You trying to get law enforcement to search it, or?
Well, that would be the idea, right?
Right.
Ideal. And, I'm in the progress of working with Light the Way and the Gabby Petito Foundation on some media moves. I've got a legislation bill that I've written, all of these things to help try to keep pressure on it. I'm at a point, though, where if the Escambia County Sheriff's Office doesn't want to search that land, because according to them, they don't have enough information to do that, I don't know that they ever will. I'm ready to do it myself.
Well, no, now you've got me thinking with, Light the Way, that they're an amazing organization. So is the Gabby Petito Foundation. You have so many contacts, in this world. I wonder if you could get Mrs. Foster's permission and put together, we have contacts with I'm sure you do too, canines, and I wonder if you could do your own search.
Well, yeah, that's kind of where I'm leaning towards. We'll see how that plans out. There's a couple of other things that are coming down the pipeline right now that I want to work through, because I feel like it's almost imperative to have the community's support on this to move forward. It's almost, without it, I don't know that I'll get anything done. But yes, I mean, this is a delicate situation. And I don't want anybody to kind of take this and run with it either. So,
right.
It's a delicate situation, but yes, it's something that I hope to do. Yeah.
Okay. Will you please keep me in the loop, because we would like to send myself and maybe a couple from our team to come help if that happens.
Yeah, and I'm not in Florida anymore, so it's really hard. I'm finding it very interesting to try to coordinate down there. So I plan on taking some trips.
Okay.
Like September and the fall. So I do have some ideas and some plans in place and hope to add a search to that. I will call you, and of course I am hoping that the Escambia County Sheriff's Office decides that Robert Bassett posting in a Facebook group, in a hog pen, and that there's a hog pen that hasn't been searched, to my knowledge, from those that I've asked, it hasn't been searched. But we're also talking about the same detective that thought it was a very big inconvenience for me to contact the representative and county commissioners recently for those missing remains that hadn't been tested. He was so mad at me.
So when we first started talking was when you had found out about those remains and you were trying to get them tested. Now they've been tested and confirmed that it's not Danielle.
So they haven't been tested. These remains have not been tested. That's something that I should talk to you about.
Okay.
So I have two numbers for you if you want to write them down. I don't know if you want to follow up on these, but UP 102 122 is the NamUs number.
UP 122?
102.
Oh, 102 122.
And then the medical examiner's case number for this one is 221385.
Okay.
And there was a second set. If it's UP 142 189. I've been told. Go ahead. Sorry.
Well, which one was found less than a mile from Robert Bassett's house?
So 102 122. And I did speak with, so when I spoke with the medical examiner's office, they said that they ran Danielle's dental records against both of these sets.
Okay.
And that 102 122 was with the forensic anthropologist to be identified. And this was just a week ago that I found out.
Okay.
So here's my question. If neither, I would love to see both of these sets of remains get tested for DNA. And they verified through dental records, but they didn't they didn't say if it was being tested for DNA.
Okay. So you don't know if they're doing DNA testing.
Correct. So I've put it on a couple of people's radars that like unidentified remains are kind of an area of interest and expertise. That's why I'm giving you these numbers if that's something that you want to pass along to people.
Mhm.
I'd love to be able to stay on top of these and track them down, but I just don't have the emotional energy.
Okay, so what about the other set?
Same thing. I just know that those were ran against Danielle's dental records. I don't know if they're being tested for DNA or characterized in any way.
So both of them have been ran against the dental records and they're saying that they're not Danielle, but
Correct. But then again, I've been having at first I was kind of relieved to have an answer. And then I saw Sarah Turney's video the same day.
I was just going to bring that up.
And I've been thinking about it ever since then. And I'm like, but do we really know?
Yeah.
So that's where I'm kind of like, I don't know. Also, when I generated the map, so if you go into NamUs underneath these cases and you click the map, I was told that the pen location that's been dropped that appears to be a mile from Robert Bassett's house is a general location and not an exact representation of the location that they were found.
Okay. I've never heard of that. I've never heard of that. Like with NamUs, usually it's an exact location.
Right.
Okay, that's different. So what can we do as a community, as a true crime community, as an advocacy community? What could we do to help you and Danielle's case?
Right now, I'm just asking everyone to, share the stories about her, the content pieces that people are putting out. You can follow me at most social media accounts under Missing Child Danielle Bell. So I'm on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. I would ask people to stay tuned for some exciting things that are being planned. This legislation bill called Danielle's Law in particular, I'm still not at a place where I can really talk about the details of that. And I also, plan on holding a vigil back in Pensacola this fall for Danielle. So all of those details will be coming over the summer, but that's kind of where I'm at right now.
You're gonna have a vigil in September, like on the 29th maybe? Or is it
I don't know the exact date. I'd like
Okay.
to do it on the 28th, 27th, 28th of September, but it's Pensacola Seafood Festival that weekend, and it's so crowded in the location that I want to use. So I
Okay.
haven't the date yet.
Okay. Well,
So
keep us in the loop on the date. We'd like to help you both. So I explained to you that the Florida Themis Project is our nonprofit that my husband Ken and I started 3 years ago. And we're small, but we do what we can. And but we've been podcasting with Paradise After Dark, Missing and Unsolved for over 7 years now. So in both organizations are advocacy organizations. The podcast, we only cover missing people and unsolved cases. We used to, I'm not going to lie, we used to cover, but as time went on and we got more into advocacy and less into that other stuff. So we would like to help you both in any way we can with the podcast and with the Florida Themis Project. So if there's anything that you can think of that we could do, I mean, we do fundraising for things. Obviously, we're doing a public awareness campaign for the entire month of June. We're going to be doing huge social media push. I'm going to make like 1,000 different graphics and be pushing them out there on all the social medias. And then Paradise After Dark is going to release this episode. We're going to do the episode, and we have a pretty big following. If there's anything else that we can do, is there anything else that you want the public to know?
I think the biggest thing that I want people to know is that Robert Bassett gets out of prison the end of November this year, and that he is a violent, vile human being, and you should not let your children around him. You should not date him. You should not engage with him in any way because he is so violent. That's what I want everyone to know. I want Northwest Florida to know that Robert Bassett is violent and he's getting back out of prison the end of November.
Okay.
That's what I want everybody to know.
Okay. Any final thoughts on Danielle?
Um, I think for me, Danielle was a child that never got a shot at life because of very sad situations and circumstances. And she is a victim that is often not seen as a victim because she looks so much older than what she was.
She does. And looking at
Yeah.
her photos, she does look older.
Yeah, and that's why, I used to just have Missing Danielle Bell, and then I changed it to Missing Child. Because
Yeah.
people would stop and pay attention. I know she looks older than what she was. But she was a child. She had just turned 14. Her birthday is July 28th, and then 2 months later,
Oh, wow.
she just started high school. She was a child who was under the care of a terrible, terrible mother who neglected her. I mean, I have no problem saying that, that I think that, she was set up for failure.
I'm very sorry.
Yeah.
I'm
Thank you.
very sorry for you and your family. And I want to commend you, though, for doing what you do.
Thank you.
Because a lot of, there is some people like you, Sarah Turney, obviously, you guys are rock stars, but there's some families members that just don't have it in them. I've talked to a lot of family members and they just don't have it. They don't have it in them they're too broken. They're too sad. But I think what you're doing is amazing, and you're honoring your sister and you're keeping it out there in the limelight. And that's what needs to be done, especially with these older cases.
Mm-hmm.
So kudos to you. And
Yeah.
I really appreciate you taking the time to chat with me and telling me Danielle's story from your perspective. Like I said at the beginning, you're probably the one person who knows this story better than anyone else. So that's why I wanted to hear it from your perspective.
Yeah, no, and I appreciate you covering it and doing a campaign. I really appreciate it. That's the best thing we can do at this point to keep our story out there. So, yeah, I appreciate you.
Danielle Bell went missing on September 28, 2001 from Cantonment, Florida. If you have any information concerning the whereabouts of this person, please contact the Florida Department of Law Enforcement or the Escambia County Sheriff's Office at 850-436-9620. That's 850-436-9620.
Somebody knows something. Let's get justice for Danielle.
All right, everyone, that's it for this episode.
Please remember to check out our website for links to all of our social media, merch store, and more.
And please check out our nonprofit organization that helps families, loved ones, and law enforcement with resources in missing persons, unsolved, and cold cases, the Florida Themis Project. You can find that at floridathemisproject.org.
And as always, thank you everyone for listening
to Paradise After Dark.
Dark, 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 dark.
Having a life scholarship and being able to afford to go to college made me feel inspired to go.
When I got a life scholarship, it was such a relief.
I knew that I wanted to have an impact. Having a life scholarship through the SC Education Lottery was huge. It gave me the opportunity to make that impact right here at home.
The South Carolina Education Lottery. A better you, a better us, a better South Carolina. Visit sceducationlottery.com/betteryou.
It is Ryan Seacrest here. There was a recent social media trend which consisted of flying on a plane with no music, no movies, no entertainment. But a better trend would be going to ChumbaCasino.com. It's like having a mini social casino in your pocket. Chumba Casino has over 100 online casino-style games, all absolutely free. It's the most fun you can have online and on a plane. So grab your free welcome bonus now at ChumbaCasino.com. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.